Steve, we had a question come in from one of our viewers, Zach6677. And Zach's question is, what are the various methods of designing a comic strip? Is the Marvel method actually recommended?
Okay, that's a heavy-duty question. The Marvel method typically means that the writer just kind of writes a synopsis and that the artist kind of like lays the story out, right? And this goes back to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. You know, Stan the writer, Jack basically the artist, although Jack also did write some stuff, right? So the story goes that Stan would give like kind of a synopsis, an outline to Jack, and then Jack would like lay the whole thing out, and then Stan would just plug like the dialogue and the captions in. And I know this for a fact that is correct because I knew Stan Lee. That's another long serendipitous story, by the way. But in any event, there's no one answer to the best way to write a comic book or graphic novel. You know, I could spend hours trying to explain various techniques, whether you start with a synopsis and then hand that to an artist a la the Marvel style, or do you, like what DC, the Superman, Batman company, right? The DC method, which is basically the writer writes a full graphic novel script or comic book script and hands it off to the artist. You can't say one method is necessarily superior to the other. It all depends on the people involved.
You said you had an interesting story about meeting Stan Lee?
Oh, yes. So Stan lived on Long Island, where I'm originally from, Long Island, New York, in a town called Hewlett Bay Harbor. And the neighboring town was just Hewlett Bay Harbor. My uncle Sidney owned the only real like electronics and appliance store in Hewlett, okay? Leidenheim Electronics. And Stan bought all of his, at the time, he called it hi-fi and stereo equipment from my Uncle Sid, okay? And so guess who would deliver this stuff to Stan's house? Me. So I met him. And very interesting guy. And I told him at one of the times I went over that, you know, I love comic books, I love Marvel books and blah, 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 right? Years and years later, I'm at the University of Miami, okay? And I'm the editor of the University of Miami student magazine called Tempo. And I write to Stan, send me some pictures of yourself. I'm going to write a big article about Marvel Comics. And I do. And Stan really likes the article. And he writes me a letter that I still have to this day to call him, to talk to him about writing for Marvel Comics. So I did call him and told him at the time that, well, you know, I got to finish college and then it looks like I'm getting a scholarship to law school. But so thank you very much, but I can't do it, right? Am I sorry I made that decision? No, because I ended up creating Zen. And had I accepted the job from Stan, I may not, you know, then my life would have taken a different course and I'd maybe be writing issues of the Hulk or Ant-Man or something, right? So you never know, you know, you make a decision at a certain time in life. But I will tell you that something very nice happened. There's a documentary, a really great documentary right now on Disney Plus, because you know Disney owns Marvel, right? There's a great documentary about Stan Lee on it. So I'm watching it like the day it comes out, right? And Stan is talking in the interview about how the name Marvel came about, how they named it Marvel Comics. So he's talking about it, you know, based on an interview that he had done decades ago. And suddenly, my article, which was headlined "Marvelous" with an exclamation point, shows up on the screen. But more than that, camera pans down and my name stays on the screen for a couple of seconds. And I literally fell out of the chair when I saw this. I knew that Stan loved that article and he kept it in his archive. And that was in all probability how that article is in the Stan Lee documentary on Disney Plus. So yeah, it was very interesting. And I knew Stan in the later years. I would go to his office in Beverly Hills and we'd go to like lunch at the Nate and Al's, which is like this famous deli that's there, right? And he was a wonderful guy, and it was a blessing to know him. And I feel that a lot of my writing was clearly inspired by, you know, Stan's writing.
And you said earlier that, you know, did you kind of kick yourself for not taking up the offer and instead you went to law school? I'm wondering though, do you feel like you always have needed to do your own thing? You know, you've had your own businesses. You still have your own business with your screenplay adaptations with comic books and creating Zen with Dan. Do you think that that's always been something in your DNA?
Absolutely. Quick story. So I worked for many years at the Singer Sewing Machine Company. They hired me to write the manuals that come with the sewing machine. And by the way, it's a very big company that does a lot of things beyond sewing machines. Furniture, other things you'd be unaware of, most people. So I'm hired and I'm working for Singer Sewing Machine Company. And it's always in the back of my mind that, you know, they could fire me, you know? So you know what I did? I quit. I opened my own ad agency and I pitched and got the Singer Sewing Machine account. And for a couple of years, they were a major account of mine. But I did this primarily because I always wanted to do my own thing, you know. Not everybody can do their own thing. There's a lot of trials and tribulations attached to that. But that's what I did. And so, yes, you are 100% correct. I'm intransigently independent, and I've been basically working for myself for like, you know, 40, 50 years now.
Have you been tempted to go, especially in the past, get a job somewhere and say, you know what, this is just easier clocking in for the man, so to speak?
No, that's just not, it's not in my DNA. I've always just wanted to do my own thing. And I mean, what could be, you know, more in that regard than like quitting law school to go write comic book stories in Manhattan for like $50 a story at the time. It's just, I've always just kind of done what I felt I needed to do. Again, it's not for everybody. If everybody did what I did, you know, who would work a lot of jobs in the office?
What's your craziest odd job that you've had?
I was the nighttime clerk at Cumberland Farms, which was in Jersey and New York area, like 7-Eleven back in the day. I don't think they have them here. That was probably the craziest job, yeah. That didn't last terribly long, a couple months.
Because of all the people that would come in late at night?
Oh yeah, it was a strange milieu, yeah.
Maybe some good writing ideas.
Oh, certainly that, yeah.